The flagship hung above the neutral station like a metallic mountain. Lisa Morton watched it through the viewport of the diplomatic vessel, her heart beating faster. She had traveled across the galaxy for this moment, but nothing had prepared her for how real it would feel. She studied how different species adapted to their worlds. For 15 years, she had worked quietly in research facilities, publishing papers that few people read. Then came the message. Earth's government wanted her on a first contact mission. They wanted her because she understood living systems better than anyone else they had. They were not like anything humanity had encountered before. They were massive, standing 3 meters tall with scales that reflected light like polished metal. Their bodies resembled what humans called dragons. They had 4 arms, each strong enough to bend steel. Their heads held 2 large eyes that seemed to see everything at once. They had ruled the outer rim of the galaxy for 10,000 years. The diplomatic delegation prepared to board the vessel. Lisa checked her equipment one more time. She carried soil samples, water samples, and biological recordings of Earth. She wanted to show that Earth was not empty or primitive. It was alive and full of answers. Ambassador Michael Hayes led the human group. He was confident, trained, and experienced with alien cultures. Lisa stood behind him, holding her case of samples. The other diplomats wore their finest clothes. Everyone knew this first contact would shape humanity's future. The airlock opened. They waited on the other side. The largest stepped forward. His scales were deep purple with silver marks running along his body. His movements were slow and deliberate. When he spoke, his voice was like thunder rolling across mountains. "I am," the massive alien said. "I welcome humanity to the galactic community." Ambassador Hayes stepped forward and offered his hand, looked at the gesture, then carefully extended one of his 4 arms. His hand was enormous. When they touched, Lisa held her breath. The meeting room was vast and cold. A long table stretched across it. Humans sat on one side, sat on the other, sat at the head of the table, his eyes moving slowly across the humans as they spoke. Lisa noticed something strange. Eyes moved in a pattern. He was not looking directly at people. His head would turn, his eyes would search, then turn again. It was like he was searching for something he could not quite find. Ambassador Hayes presented Earth's position on trade. He spoke about human technology. He mentioned Earth's resources. He talked about human culture and history. Listened. He asked questions that showed deep knowledge of human civilization, but his eyes kept moving that strange pattern. During a break in the discussions, Lisa walked closer too. She was not supposed to approach him without permission, but something in his movements troubled her. "Honored," Lisa said quietly. "I am Dr. Lisa Morton. May I ask you a personal question?" His massive head turned toward her voice. He did not look directly at her. His eyes swept past her face. "You may ask, human," he said. "Your eyes," Lisa said carefully. "The way they move, you are searching for something. You are searching for light, are you not?" Silence filled the room. The other made low sounds, remained still. "You are perceptive," finally said. "A quality rare in young species. Yes, Dr. Morton, I am searching for light. I have been searching for many years, searching and finding less each day." Lisa understood. She had seen this condition before in rare cases on Earth, was going blind. His eyes were failing him. The great guardian of the outer rim was slowly losing his sight. "How long?" Lisa asked. 30 years, said. "The finest doctors in the galaxy have studied my condition. They have tried every medicine, every treatment, every technology we possess. Nothing stops the darkness. Soon I will not find light at all. Soon I will see only night." Lisa felt something shift in her chest. Here was a being of incredible power, standing 3 meters tall with strength to move mountains, and he was helpless against his own body's failure. It was heartbreaking. "What is the cause?" Lisa asked. "My species lived on a harsh world," explained. "Our eyes adapted to extreme light. Our planet orbited close to its sun. We developed protection against this light. But now, thousands of years later, in the cool darkness of space, our eyes are failing. We were designed for a world of fire. Space is too kind to us." Turned his head toward Lisa. His eyes swept across her but did not focus. "They offered me technology to replace my eyes," continued. "They offered biological reconstruction. They offered drugs that might slow the darkness. None of these solutions worked. My eyes remain broken. My sight continues to fade." Before Lisa could respond, Ambassador Hayes appeared beside her. He was not happy about her talking to without permission. "My apologies honored," Hayes said. "Dr. Morton sometimes acts without protocol." But raised one hand. "Let her speak. Your scientist sees what your ambassador does not. There is wisdom in her directness." Lisa felt her face flush. She looked at his massive form, at his powerful body that could not fix this one small problem. "On Earth," Lisa said slowly, "we live on a harsh world. The sun's light is strong but filtered through our atmosphere. We have animals with eyes adapted to many conditions. Some see in darkness. Some see colors that other species cannot. We have plants that produce compounds to protect from light. We have minerals in our soil that filter harmful rays." His head tilted slightly. His eyes continued their searching pattern. "Are you suggesting," said, "that a young species from a harsh world might have something to teach the Galactic Council?" "I am suggesting," Lisa said, "that sometimes the answer comes from places people forget to look." The next morning, Lisa was in the communications room with her colleague, Dr. James, had stayed on Earth, managing their research laboratory. Lisa explains condition in detail. "It sounds like a photosensitivity problem combined with age-related degeneration," said through the video screen. "His eyes evolved for extreme light, but they're wearing out in lower light environments. That's actually backward from what we see on Earth, but the principle is similar." "Can you create something?" Lisa asked. "Something from Earth materials that might help?" Was quiet for a long moment. "I can try. We have compounds from deep forest plants. We have mineral extracts. I can combine them into eye drops. But Lisa, they're designed for human eyes. The chemistry might not work for it, and if they don't work, if they make things worse." "I know," Lisa said, "but he has nothing to lose. The darkness is already coming." That evening found Lisa in the observation room, was Granddaughter, a young diplomat. She was smaller than only 2 meters tall, but her eyes were sharp and aware. "My grandfather speaks of you," said. "He says you are different from the other humans. You see pain, you do not look away." Lisa turned to face the young. "I want to help him. I cannot promise anything, but my colleague on Earth is preparing something. A medicine, it might help his eyes." His expression changed. Lisa saw hope flicker in those sharp eyes, then fade. "Many have promised help, many have failed." "I know," Lisa said, "but we have not tried yet." 3 days later, a package arrived from Earth. Inside were small bottles filled with clear liquid. The labels were simple. They read, "Psi treatment, use 2 drops each eye, once daily, morning only." Brought Lisa to his private chamber. It was vast and dark, preferred darkness now. Light had become painful. "I cannot promise this will work," Lisa said, standing before the great alien. "This medicine comes from my world. It was made from things that grow in Earth's harsh places. But on Earth, we are young. We are still learning. Sometimes young things know answers that old things have forgotten." Looked toward her voice. His eyes moved their searching pattern. "And if this fails?" he asked. Dr. James stood in his laboratory on Earth. Around him were machines that hummed and beeped. Screens showed data flowing across them. He held a small bottle up to the light. Inside was a liquid that glowed slightly amber. The formula had taken 3 days to perfect, had worked without sleeping. He had used ancient plants from Earth's tropical forests. These plants had evolved in places where light was intense and filtered. They produced compounds that protected their leaves and flowers from damage. He had also used minerals from deep beneath Earth's surface. These minerals had formed over billions of years in conditions of pressure and heat, had extracted trace elements that had properties similar to what eyes might need. The result was simple. 3 main compounds mixed together. It was not fancy. It was not based on advanced galactic technology. It was based on what Earth had taught him over millions of years of evolution. Recorded his notes carefully. He wrote about the formula. He wrote about why he thought it might work. He included a warning. This medicine was designed for human eyes on a human body. Using it on an alien might cause problems. But he also believed it would work. His assistant, a young woman named, helped him prepare the final bottles. They were small, designed for delicate work, was nervous about the task. "What if this makes him worse?" asked as she filled each bottle with precise amounts. "Then at least we tried," said, "and at least he will know that someone across the galaxy cared enough to try." The package was prepared. It was sealed in a protective case designed to survive the long journey through space. personally carried it to the transport ship that would carry it to the space station. He watched as it was loaded. He said a silent prayer to anyone who might be listening. On the vessel, days passed, had refused to look at the bottles at first, had convinced him to accept them. When the moment came, when finally held the small bottle in one of his massive hands, Lisa could feel the weight of hope in the room. His chamber was kept dark. Only a small light glowed from one corner, sat before a reflective surface, something like a mirror. Lisa stood to one side, stood to the other. "Tell me again what your colleagues said," holding the bottle carefully. Lisa spoke the words had recorded for her. She explained the plants. She explained the minerals. She explained that Earth was a harsh world and its creatures had learned to protect themselves. Opened the bottle, he smelled it. He made a low, curious sound. "It smells like growing things," he said. "Like rain on leaves, like life." He held up the dropper, the liquid hung suspended from it, stepped close. Lisa held her breath. Tilted his head back, he squeezed the dropper. 2 drops fell into his right eye. They met his massive pupil and spread across the surface, went very still. "What do you feel?" Lisa asked quietly. "Burning," said. "Not pain, but fire, like the sun of my ancient home, like light from long ago." He waited, minutes passed like hours, then opened his eyes slowly. His massive pupil constricted, he made a sound of surprise. "I see light," he whispered. "Brighter than yesterday, brighter than the last month, I see light." Made an excited sound, held up his hand for silence. "Wait," he said. "The effect may fade, do not celebrate what might be illusion." He applied the drops to his left eye. He waited again. The light in the chamber remained gentle and low, but could see it now. His eyes could track it. His eyes could find it without the searching pattern that had become his curse. "Again," said, "I want to feel it again." "Once daily," Lisa said. "That is what doctor instructed. Each morning, only 2 drops in each eye." Looked at Lisa, his eyes focused on her face. For the first time, he was truly looking at her. He was not searching, he was seeing. "Your world has done this," said. "Your young world has done what the entire Galactic Council could not do." The next morning applied the drops again. His vision was clearer. By the 3rd morning, he could read text from across the room. By the 5th morning, he could see colors with rich detail. By the 8th morning, he could look at his own hands and see every scale, every line, every mark of age and experience. Brought her grandfather to a viewport. Before them hung the stars, had not seen the stars clearly in 30 years. He stood for hours, silent, watching. His eyes moved slowly across the darkness. He found each star. He traced the paths of distant worlds. Lisa stood beside him. She said nothing. Some moments did not need words. "You have given me something priceless," finally said. "Not just sight. You have given me time, time to see my world, time to see my family's faces, time to watch the stars one more time before I leave this existence." He turned to look at her directly. His eyes were clear and sharp. "Tell me about your world," he said. "Tell me about Earth." Lisa told him everything. She told him about Earth's violent weather. She told him about the creatures that could survive almost anything. She told him about humans who had learned to adapt and overcome. She told him about how young humans were, how they had only recently reached the stars, and how they were still learning. Listened to every word. When she finished, he was quiet. "There is something I must tell you," said. "Something that only the eldest know, something that few in the Galactic Council understand." Lisa waited. "A long time ago," continued, "when your species was still learning to make fire, we encountered humans. Not the humans of today, an earlier form, a different branch of your species. They were remarkable. They could adapt to anything. They could solve problems that seemed unsolvable. They had a quality that I have never seen in any other species." "What quality?" Lisa asked. "The willingness to help others," said. "Even at cost to themselves, even when it was difficult or dangerous. They would see a problem and work to solve it, not for payment, not for recognition, but simply because the problem existed and needed solving." He looked back at the stars. "We made a treaty with them, an ancient pact. We promised that if their descendants ever reached the stars, and if those descendants showed the same quality of character, we would stand with them. We would protect them. We would help them find their place among the great civilizations of the galaxy." Lisa's heart began to beat faster. She said slowly, "Are you telling me that humans—" "I am telling you," said, "that your world has just proved something important. You have shown us that you have not forgotten the lessons of your ancestors. You have shown us kindness. You have shown us problem-solving. You have shown us the wisdom to help even when success was not certain. Turned away from the stars, he looked directly at Lisa, called Lisa into his private chamber. This was not the dark room where he had received the medicine. This was a different chamber, older and colder. The walls were covered with ancient symbols. They glowed with a soft blue light. "What you are about to learn has been kept secret for thousands of years," said. He sat upon a high throne made of dark stone. His eyes were bright and clear now. They studied Lisa with sharp attention. "The people have ruled this sector of the galaxy for 10,000 years, began. But we were not the first to discover the secrets of space travel. We were not the first to build cities among the stars. Before us there were others, much older species. They built empires and then they fell." He walked to one of the ancient walls. He traced his finger across the symbols. 12,000 years ago, we encountered a species that was new to space travel. They came from a world called Earth. They were fragile compared to us. They were weaker. They had less technology, but they had something no other species possessed. Lisa stepped closer. Her heart was pounding. "When we first met them," said, "they did not see us as conquerors to fear. They did not see us as competitors to fight. They saw us as a chance to learn. They shared their knowledge. They shared their discoveries. They asked us questions about the universe. They listened to our answers with genuine interest." Was watching her grandfather carefully. "Most young species act the same way," continued. "They are curious but cautious. They are friendly but guarded, but the humans were different. One of our science teams had a ship that failed. The humans found us. They could have destroyed us. They could have stolen our technology. Instead, they helped us repair our vessel. They gave us supplies. They asked for nothing in return." Turned back to face Lisa. "When we asked them why they would help strangers," he said, "they gave an answer that shocked our council. They said it was wrong to let anyone suffer when you had the power to help. They said they did not see beings to compete with. They saw beings who needed assistance." "What happened to them?" Lisa asked. "That was the mystery," said. "Within 200 years, they disappeared. They stopped sending ships to our territory. We sent our vessels to find them, but we discovered only wreckage and emptiness. We never knew what happened. We only knew that Earth had gone silent." Moved to a table. On it lay an ancient document. The paper was so old it looked like it would break if touched. The writing on it was in old script. "Before they disappeared," said, "they proposed something remarkable. They proposed a covenant, a pact between our species. They knew their time might be short. They knew something might happen that would silence them. But they believed their descendants would someday find their way back to the stars." He touched the document carefully. "The pact said this," continued. "If the descendants of humanity ever reached space again, and if they showed the same qualities that their ancestors had shown, kindness, problem-solving, and a willingness to help even when it was difficult, then we would honor them. We would protect them. We would stand as their guardians." Lisa felt tears forming in her eyes. "For 10,000 years," said, "this covenant has been secret. Only the highest leaders of our people knew of it. We watched Earth from a distance. We watched your species rise and fall and rise again. We watched as your people advanced from using simple tools to building machines. We watched as you finally reached for the stars." "But you never helped us," Lisa said. "You let us struggle, you let us learn alone." "Because the covenant required one thing," said. "It required that you reach the stars by your own effort. It required that you prove yourselves without our aid. And when you reached the stars, you had to show us that you remembered the lessons of your ancestors. You had to show that you had not forgotten kindness." His eyes were bright with something Lisa could not quite name. "And you have," he said. "A young scientist from a young world, you saw an old creature suffering. You did not know if helping would work. You did not know if you would gain anything from it. You helped anyway. You have reminded us why we made that covenant so long ago." The following day, Lisa was called to the communication center, brought her the news personally. "My grandfather has called a meeting of the council," said. "He is going to tell them about you, about Earth, about the covenant." "Will they believe him?" Lisa asked. "They will because he is the oldest of us," said. "His word is law among the people. When he speaks, we listen." His message was transmitted across the entire empire. In the meeting halls, in the research centers, in the military stations, every heard their leader speak. He told them about the ancient encounter. He told them about the humans of the past. He told them about the covenant. He told them about Earth and about the cure that a young human had brought across the galaxy. When he finished, there was silence on every world. Then made an announcement that shocked the entire species. "I am calling for a mobilization of our fleet," he said. "Every warship in our possession will prepare to move. 13,000 vessels will position themselves to protect the human world called Earth. From this moment forward, humanity is under protection. Any species that threatens humanity will answer to me personally." The reaction was immediate. Messages flooded through galactic communications. The sent urgent inquiries, the demanded explanation. The Empire threatened military action. The entire Galactic Council erupted in confusion. Why would they mobilize their entire military for a young species like humanity? What could Earth possibly have that was worth such protection? What did this mean for the balance of power in the galaxy? Some species feared it was a conquest. Others feared it was preparation for war. No one understood it was an honor debt being paid. No one understood it was an ancient promise finally being fulfilled. But in the quiet research laboratories and military command centers of other species, certain members of certain councils had a different reaction. They had feared this moment for a long time. There were those who had discussed humanity in secret meetings. There were those who had watched Earth's development with concern. There were those who believed that if humanity ever proved itself to be more than primitive, it could become dangerous. Some of these beings had even proposed solutions. Quiet solutions, permanent solutions, ways to prevent humanity from becoming a problem. Now those plans would have to change. The first signal came to Earth's Space Defense Network at 2:47 a.m. An alert sounded in the central command hub. Military personnel rushed to their stations. The screens showed something that turned their blood cold. A massive fleet was approaching Earth's space. The sensors counted the vessels, 13,000 warships, more military power than Earth had ever imagined existing in one place. The commander of Earth's defense force was named David Monroe. He had spent 30 years protecting his world. He had trained for battle his entire career, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Get me President Harrison," Monroe said. His voice was calm but urgent. "Get me every government leader online, now." Within minutes, the president of Earth and leaders from every major nation were in a conference. They watched as the fleet took position around Earth. The formation was not aggressive. It was not a battle stance, but it was overwhelming. "Are they attacking?" someone asked. "I don't know," Monroe said, "but they haven't fired a shot. They're just sitting there." Lisa's first message arrived 2 hours later. It came directly to President Harrison. "This is Dr. Lisa Morton reporting from space. The fleet approaching Earth is under the command of the leader of the people. He has placed Earth under protection. This is not an invasion. This is an alliance. However, I do not have time to explain everything. We'll send a formal message to your government within the hour. I recommend you prepare to accept it." The message ended. President Harrison looked around the room at the shocked faces of world leaders. "What does this mean?" asked Secretary of Defense Robert James. "Alliance protection from what?" No one had an answer. The message came exactly 1 hour later. It was transmitted on all communication frequencies, in every language, in every medium. His voice, deep and ancient, reached every person on Earth. He spoke about the Covenant. He spoke about the ancient humans of 10,000 years ago. He spoke about the medicine Lisa had provided. He spoke about honor and promises and why Earth now belonged under his protection. The speech lasted 30 minutes. When it ended, Earth was silent. Then panic began. Around the world, governments called emergency sessions. Military forces were put on alert. Some thought it was an invasion using false words. Others thought it was manipulation. A few understood it for what it was, a revelation that humanity was no longer alone on the galactic stage. The United Nations called an emergency assembly. Ambassador from China raised the first question. "Is this a takeover or a partnership?" No one could answer. They called Lisa again. This time they demanded she explain everything. She did. She told them about blindness. She told them about the ancient pact. She told them about the covenant that had lasted 10,000 years. She told them about how one simple act of kindness had changed everything. "They're not invading," Lisa said clearly. "They're keeping a promise their ancestors made, but the galaxy doesn't understand this. The other major powers are confused, some are angry, some are afraid. Afraid of what? President Harrison asked. Afraid that humanity might become strong, Lisa said. There are other species in the galaxy. The Empire, they've been the major powers for a very long time. They don't like changes to the balance of power. What happens now? Secretary James asked. Now we wait, Lisa said. Is going to the Galactic Council. He's going to defend humanity. He's going to explain why they believe in us. But there will be resistance. The other powers won't accept this without question. Over the next 3 days, the fleet held its position. 13,000 warships circled Earth silently. No communication, no demands, just presence. On Earth, confusion turned to fear. Fear turned to anger. Anger turned to questions. Scientists wanted to know everything about the military leaders wanted to know if they could fight such a fleet. Religious leaders wanted to know what this meant for spirituality. Politicians wanted to know how to respond. Lisa's team worked constantly to gather information from sources. They sent everything back to Earth. They explained culture. They explained the Covenant. They explained that the 13,000 warships were actually a gift. A gift? Commander Monroe asked incredulously. How is a military fleet a gift? Because it means no other species will try to invade Earth, Lisa's message said. Because it means humanity is now protected by one of the oldest powers in the galaxy. Because it means we have allies. Still, Earth remained uneasy. Then on the 4th day, there was a change. The fleet moved, but not away from Earth. They moved into a defensive perimeter, a formation designed to protect. They positioned themselves between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. The message came to President Harrison directly. My fleet will remain in this position indefinitely. We will not permit any species to threaten your world. This is the honor of the ancient covenant. This is the respect we offer to a people who remember kindness. President Harrison sat alone in his office and read the message 3 times. Then he called for Lisa. What do we do now? He asked. We decide who we want to be, Lisa said through the communication screen. They are offering us protection because they believe in something they saw in our ancestors. They're offering us a place in galactic civilization, but we have to decide if we want it. Is there a choice? Harrison asked. There's always a choice, Lisa said. We could ask them to leave. We could try to deal with the other powers on our own, or we could accept that we have friends in the galaxy. We could accept that kindness matters. We could accept that being young doesn't mean being powerless. President Harrison was quiet for a long moment. I think, he finally said, we should show that humanity is worthy of their faith. The next message sent came from President Harrison on behalf of all Earth's nations. It was simple and clear. We are humbled by your protection. We are honored by your faith in our people. We accept your alliance not out of weakness, but out of a desire to walk among the stars as partners with you and with all species who value kindness and cooperation. Thank you for remembering what our ancestors once were. We will spend our lifetimes becoming worthy of what our descendants might be. When received the message, he was in the Galactic Council chamber. He was standing before the other great powers. The representatives from a dozen other species, the fleet began to move, not backward, forward, toward Earth. Toward the Galactic Council's surprise, the warships did not take up positions to attack. They took up positions to defend. From every corner of space, the 13,000 vessels arrived at their stations. They formed a protective ring around Earth. Their weapons were powered down. Their shields were raised. They waited. The Galactic Council erupted in debate. The demanded explanation, the protested, the threatened military response, but remained calm. The Covenant is ancient, said in the council chamber. Older than your nations, older than your governments, older than most of your species. We are honoring a promise made long ago. And we are making a new promise. Any species that threatens Earth will face the full military power of the Empire. The representative, a being of crystalline structure, spoke sharply. You would risk war with the combined powers of the galaxy for this primitive world. I would, said, because Earth is not what you think it is. You judge value by technology. You measure worth by military power. But there are other measures. There are measures of character, measures of wisdom, measures of what makes a species truly great. He paused. In the gallery above the council chamber, Earth's diplomats watched. Lisa stood beside President Harrison. They held their breath. 10,000 years ago, continued, the humans of Earth offered us help when we needed it. They asked for nothing in return. They acted out of pure compassion. That species disappeared from the galaxy, but their descendants have returned, and they have proved that the lesson was not forgotten. Gestured to the small bottle of medicine on the table. This, he said, is made by human hands from human knowledge. No laboratory made it. No supreme technology created it. Humans looked at a problem and used what they knew to find an answer. That is the kind of species that changes civilizations. That is the kind of species worth protecting. The representative stood. This is madness you cannot expect. But raised his hand. His voice became louder, colder, more ancient. I am of the, he said. I have ruled for 3,000 years. I will not debate honor with anyone. The humans are under our protection. That is final. Back on Earth, President Harrison held an emergency broadcast. He spoke to every person on every continent. He told them about the Covenant. He told them that humanity had finally earned a place among the great powers of the galaxy, not through force, but through character. We are protected now, Harrison said. But that protection comes with responsibility. We must prove ourselves worthy. We must show the galaxy that humanity is more than a young species with primitive technology. We must show them that we are builders, we are thinkers, we are compassionate. The president paused. But most importantly, he said, we must show them that kindness is not weakness, that helping others is not a sign of inferiority, that reaching across the darkness to assist those in need is the truest measure of strength. The reaction was global. From every nation, every culture, every religion, people looked up at the sky. They knew the fleet was there. They knew their world was being protected by an alien species. But instead of fear, people felt something else. They felt gratitude. They felt pride. They felt the weight of responsibility. Scientists began developing new technologies using Earth's unique resources. Engineers worked on creating systems that could be shared with other species. Artists and philosophers began preparing humanity's culture for presentation to the galaxy. The other galactic powers slowly accepted the reality. There was a new player in the game. Earth, the young world, Earth, the small species, Earth, backed by the full military might of the Empire. Trade delegations began arriving. The sent merchants to study Earth's biology. The offered to share medical knowledge. The proposed joint research projects. Slowly, carefully, humanity began integrating into galactic civilization. Traveled to Earth personally. He landed his own vessel at the United Nations headquarters. He walked out to meet President Harrison. The stood 3 meters tall, powerful, and ancient. The human leader was small beside him, but they shook hands as equals. I have come to thank you, said, and to explain something that few beings in the galaxy know. He gestured for Harrison to walk with him. They moved to a private chamber. Lisa and were there. So were several high-ranking officials. The ancient humans, said, were not the first species we met who possessed wisdom. We have encountered countless civilizations. But there was something in the humans that was different. They understood that strength without compassion is tyranny. They understood that intelligence without mercy is cruelty. He looked at Lisa directly. When you provided medicine to this old dragon, said, you proved that your species had not forgotten that lesson. You acted without guarantee of reward. You acted purely from the desire to help. In a galaxy where most species calculate every exchange, where every action is weighed for benefit, your behavior was revolutionary. What happens now? President Harrison asked. Now you join us, said. Not as subordinates, not as protected children, but as partners, as species worthy of the galactic community. The next morning, Lisa stood on a platform above the Earth with. Below them, the blue world stretched out. Above them, the stars shone in the darkness. And surrounding them, forming a protective barrier that would have seemed threatening just days ago, hung 13,000 warships. My grandfather says you changed history, said. Your grandfather changed history, Lisa replied. He chose to honor an ancient promise. He chose to believe in a young species. But you made it happen, said. You saw pain and tried to help. That is what your ancestors did. That is why my grandfather believed. Lisa smiled. Maybe that is what all species should do. Maybe that is the lesson. 2 months later at the Galactic Council, a formal treaty was signed. Earth was recognized as an independent member of galactic civilization. They maintained their protective role, not as rulers, but as allies. But more than that, Earth was given a seat in the council itself. President Harrison sat among the great powers of the galaxy. And now humanity. Lisa watched from the observation gallery. She thought about Dr. James back on Earth. She thought about the forests that had provided the plants for the medicine. She thought about the simple kindness that had changed everything. Approached her after the vote was taken. "I have a gift for you," the ancient dragon said. He handed her a small device. "What is it?" Lisa asked. "It is a ship," said. "Small but powerful, built by hands. It is yours to keep, so that you can travel the galaxy, so that you can share your world's knowledge, so that you can show other young species that they too can reach for the stars." Lisa took the device. Tears formed in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "No," said. His clear eyes looked at her with warmth. "Thank you for reminding an old species why we value kindness, for proving that a young world can teach old ones new lessons, for being exactly what your ancestors were." That night, Lisa and stood together watching the stars. Below them, Earth spun slowly. Around them, 13,000 warships maintained their vigil. The stars shone above them, infinite and waiting. "Do you think this is the beginning?" asked. "I think," Lisa said, "this is proof that character matters, that kindness matters, that even the youngest, weakest species can change the galaxy if they remember who they are." The stars shone brighter. In the distances between worlds, a message spread through the galaxy. The humans of Earth, the species who had cured a dragon's blindness with simple drops, the species who had been so kind that an ancient power had awakened ancient promises to protect them. Other young civilizations heard the story. They heard that kindness was valuable. They heard that compassion could change fate. They heard that the most powerful military force in the galaxy had chosen Earth as worth protecting. And suddenly, Earth was not a quiet, forgotten world. It was a symbol that character could matter more than technology, that wisdom could come from any world, that being young did not mean being powerless. 13,000 warships held their position, silently, patiently, honoring an ancient covenant and a new alliance. And on the small blue world below, a species that had only recently reached for the stars began to walk among them as equals, as partners, as something greater than they had ever imagined possible. All because one person saw pain and tried to help. All because that person remembered that kindness was not weakness. All because humanity had never forgotten who they were. "They have accepted," announced. "Earth accepts our alliance. They are ready to join the galactic community." The representative stood up. "This is unwise. Humanity is primitive. They have no established technology. They cannot contribute anything of value." "That is where you are wrong," said. He held up a small bottle of clear liquid. "This came from Earth. My scientists have analyzed it. It is made from compounds no galactic laboratory has ever created. They solved a problem in 3 days that the greatest minds in our council could not solve in 30 years. He looked around the room. "Humanity's value," said quietly, "is not in what they have, it is in who they are." Now humanity had not just protection. Humanity had an alliance with one of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy, and that alliance meant that the young world would have a voice in galactic affairs. On Earth, governments scrambled to understand what was happening. Lisa's message arrived before the official announcement. She explained everything. She explained about blindness and the medicine. She explained about the covenant. But she ended her message with words that made world leaders pause. "They are calling their fleet. 13,000 warships are preparing to move. I do not know if this is a threat or a promise. I only know that everything has changed. Humanity has finally reached the attention of the greatest powers in the galaxy, and it started because one old man could not see the stars. When I return to the council, I will speak. I will tell them what humanity has done for me. I will remind them of the ancient pact, and I will do something that no has done in 10,000 years." "What will you do?" Lisa asked. "I will call the fleet," said. 13,000 warships. All the military power we have guarded for, I will call them to position above your world. I will declare that Earth is now under protection." Lisa's mouth went dry. She did not know what to say. "The galaxy will tremble," said quietly. "The other powers will wonder why. They will fear what it means. But you will know. The girl who gave medicine to a blind old dragon will have changed the course of galactic history. And it all began with earth drops and a young woman who chose to see pain and try to help." "Then nothing has changed," Lisa said. But if it works, then humanity will have given the mighty something they could not find anywhere else in the galaxy. Made a sound like low thunder. Lisa realized he was laughing. Very well, he said. Let us see what the young world has to teach us.